All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Batting 1,000, where we talk to the heavy hitters in the mortgage and real estate industry. And man, I am super excited about today. I don't, I rarely bring back guests a second time. In fact, my guest today is only the second person in 5 years we've been doing this that I brought back for a second gig. And the reason is because when Kara Whitman and I got together back in January of 2024, I had so much response from people saying, man, she was awesome. Can you bring her back again? And so today I've got Kara Whitman. If you don't know or remember who Kara is, Kara's been in the business since 2012. So she's a going on 14-year veteran in the mortgage industry. She is one of the most elite loan officers in the country, maybe the number one consumer direct loan officer in the country. She's been a top 40 Scotsman's Guide loan officer for 8 years. She's been the top producer in her very large company for 10 years. Nobody can beat her. And not only that, but she is just an incredible human being, a great mom. We're going to talk today about not just how she succeeds in business, but in life. Kara, great to have you back. How are you?
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much for having me again, Dale. I am so honored to be here and excited. I feel like I always get really inspired talking to you because we just, have this open, honest, authentic conversation about, the important things in life. We just
That's
do it
right.
all. And it's so awesome, to meet other great people. So honored to be here. And thank you so much for having me again.
Well, appreciate you coming back. And I put on my Others First t-shirt because you are absolutely an Others First loan officer. I thought it was appropriate. I had the great privilege to be your first trainer from a consulting standpoint. Now you had trainers on site, but way back in 2012 when you started, we've known each other a long time, and I've watched you just grow. And just for the record, $100 million last year with just one assistant, almost over 400 loans last year. You've done as many as 800 in the past in a year. So you're no stranger to massive, massive production. So talk to me. Let's start. I want to hear first and foremost from you. If you were to just formulate the primary secret to your success, you've been a consistent high producer for over a decade. You're always contributing massive results. Tell me what the secret to all that is. If you were to put it into one thought, one word, one concept, what is that?
I honestly think you just said it, and that was consistency. I think that don't try to control the uncontrollables. I actually brought something with me today. I want to show you.
Please.
Rate is overrated. Someone sent me this, so it's all about consistency, right? And so I brought this T-shirt. I thought it would be very fitting
I
to show
love it.
you.
I love it.
And you just got to do the right thing, right? And I love meeting new people. I love talking to people. I want to try to make this process as fun as possible. There's like three things that I tell myself every single day, and that is have fun, be different, and create value, right? And if you make this kind of scary, nerve-wracking, financial thing, fun, and you laugh a little, you joke a little, I think people will remember you. You have 30 seconds, right, to make a good first impression. So let's make a solid, awesome, good first impression. I want people to remember me, and then be different, right? I think we have to be a little bit quirky, right? I'm a little bit rough around the edges sometimes, but I think people like that, right? And they want you to be different, and then create value. So you have to show your value propositions, right? So regardless of what the market is doing, regardless of all of the scary news stories out there, regardless of all of the, serious life things. And yes, this is a large financial decision. Don't get me wrong, but let's be a little different, right? Create a little bit of value, have a little bit of fun, and break it down, be consistent, regardless of all the other things going on. Like truly, what are you looking to do, right? Is what's the benefit? And, I think from an early on, you taught me that rate doesn't matter. Rate does something for you, right? So you can lower your payment, you can get cash out to renovate your kitchen or pay for college education. You can shorten your term and save thousands in interest over the life of the loan. So I think that if you focus on the goal and helping others, and if you help enough people, get what they want, you're going to get what you want. So I think it's just coming into work, showing up every single day. I was at a networking event last week running on like barely any sleep, so tired. And I just came into my office and I love what I do, right? So despite all of I was just exhausted, I was tired, but I came in here and I have this I'm so happy and excited and ready to help people and talk to people that, again, just despite everything else going on, you just come in and you're passionate about it. And I love that. So all that other little stuff doesn't matter. So I think just being consistent, showing up and being disciplined. And, at the end of the day, you're making a true difference, a true impact in someone's life. And that's so cool to be able to do that literally every single day.
I love it. I love that you quoted Zig Ziglar. If you help enough other people get what they want in life, you're going to get what you want in life. That's an awesome quote that really turned my career back, gosh, 43 years ago when I started
Yeah.
in the industry. So really love that. So, all right, let's unpack some of this. And first, I want to ask this question. The thing that I love the most and always have about you and and working with you and sitting on batting 1,000 with you, and the thing that so many people who watched that episode came back to me and said was, "Oh my goodness, the enthusiasm of Kara was so contagious." All right, where does that come from, and how do you build that every single day into your repertoire?
I think it just because I love what I do, honestly, and it sounds so cliche to maybe even say that, but I truly love meeting new people, right? Everyone has a little bit of a different, unique story. We're not going through the motions, right? Every loan scenario is different, and I love being able to strategize and put all of the pieces of the puzzle together. And I'm just passionate, I'm excited, I'm energetic, I'm doing what I love. I think I kind of stumbled upon the mortgage industry almost by accident a little bit. And now I'm it's one of the best things to ever happen to me. So I have so much to be grateful for. I mean, we just spent, 2 years building our dream home. I have an incredible family, a very rewarding career. And, I'm starting to travel a little bit more. And those are all the things that I love to do. So just being humble and being grateful and, loving what I do, it just makes me excited and passionate to wake up every single day and do it. You're never just going through the motion. So I think being able to, keep things interesting, the rules, the guidelines are always changing. You have to adapt to change. You have to be totally okay with that. Right. And so I love it. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I love you mentioned your family, and we're going to unpack that in a little bit because I want to talk about not just your professional success, but your personal success and how you have come to the realization of the importance of creating balance in your life. Let's talk about this for just a minute. You talked a little bit about the fact that rate doesn't matter, and yeah, I've been screaming that forever. And I love I love that you put the T-shirt up that we coined. Rate is overrated because I believe it is. Talk to me about and talk to the audience about, because look, here's the deal. All the loan officers that I train, tens of thousands per month across the nation. Okay. And all the conferences I speak at and all the loan officers I meet, I constantly hear this, boy, if rates just get a little better, I'm going to do better. And I say, that has nothing to do with your success. Whether rates are 6.5, 6, 5.5, 5, 3, whatever they are what they are. And you're not the lowest anyway. There's always somebody lower than you. That's not going to win your deal. So from your vantage point, customers get on the phone with you and they're hammering you on the rate. Okay. I would love for the audience to hear how you deal with that and handle that in your conversations with customers. Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because last week I was talking to someone and they're like, "What's your interest rate?" And I was like, "Well, what do you want it to be?"
I
like,
love it.
I have no control over what the interest rate is. Why do you care what the interest rate is, right? And if you tell me something reasonable and realistic, then let's kind of, peel back the layers and figure out if that's what works best for you. So I think at the end of the day, we all go off of the same market, right? So our interest rate is going to be about the same. And the details are what make all of the difference in the world. So, is this more long-term savings? Is this more short-term savings? Do we want to pay points, not pay points, what do you want your payments to be per month, right? I feel like sometimes, they don't teach you about mortgages or home loans in school. And so for me to actually be their advocate and provide the method behind the madness and be an advocate and, really build that trusting relationship, what are you really looking for? I think we're just so brainwashed to think like, what's the interest rate? And the interest rate is so important. And to a certain extent, it is important, right? Let's be honest, but it does something for us. So I think that we address the question and then we kind of move on a little bit to see like what ultimately are you looking for, and ultimately like what is going to be the best for you and your family. And then if we can talk through a little bit more of like those details, let me change the deal or make the deal a little bit better, or maybe show to you and explain to you something that maybe never crossed your mind to begin with. And then you're going to have this moment where it's like, wow, that girl like really knows what she's talking about. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about this, but it makes so much more sense to do, option A versus option B versus option C. And there's pros and cons to everything in life. So I think that it is important, don't get me wrong, but again, like that's not the real benefit. So what is the real benefit? And then working together and having an open, conversation about why this may be a better solution that you never even thought of is awesome.
I love it. There was so many things you said there that are so powerful, but to me, the most powerful thing about what you just said was the confidence level that came across in that. It's like, look, I'm in control of the call. You're not in control of the call as the customer. You asked me a question, but that question really, you don't even understand what you're asking me, because at the end of the day, yeah, that's an important factor, but it's not the most important factor. There's more important factors that come into that. I love how you articulated that with the customer. And I love how you brought in the three pieces that you open up with, which I wanted to repeat again because they're so great. Have fun, be different, create value. That's what you just did in that presentation that you just did to it. And, it's funny because you mentioned it, and it's true. Okay, so rate is important to some extent. And I've said this my whole career. Rate's only important when you've got two offers that are identical from two loan officers that are identical with two options that are identical. Well, what you just did was you wrecked all of that, because as a loan officer, you're very different from the normal loan officer out there with your confidence, your enthusiasm, your knowledge, all of those things, the service you provide. And you talked about options. A, B, and C, three different options. We're not just going to give you one solution. We're not going to order take and just give you what you asked for. We're going to show you how to go beyond that, how to get things you never anticipated you would get, which just absolutely changes the whole rate conversation, because now it's not just about that. And then you even introduce whether you have points in there or don't have points in there going to drive it. There's a lot of factors that drive that. And I think if loan officers could learn to just have those conversations confidently instead of right away running to, well, my lowest rate today is this, or, oh, well, I'll get you the lowest rate. If you commit to that, you're dead, because you're not going to have the lowest rate and you're going to get beat on that. I love how you articulated that. So talk a little bit about, because I know last time we had this conversation, the thing that you talked about at depth that I loved was the power and importance of relationship. Can you talk a little bit about, because you mentioned in there, I need to find out about your family. I need to know more about what you're trying to do. Talk about how you bring that into your conversations, and what are some of the key things that you're asking that most loan officers don't ask about to help articulate and understand the real opportunity to help a borrower in a powerful way.
Yeah, I think when I first started in this industry, I was like, wow, this is, a grind and a hustle. And it is. And now I absolutely appreciate it way more. But I was like, how is this, sustainable? And I've built a book of business for it to be more sustainable because of those real relationships and, making it a little bit more real and authentic versus just a transaction. So it's fulfilling for me personally, right? I have loans for clients that I've done, 5 to 10 loans for, and they're like, hey, Kara, like, how are your kids? Like, what are you doing for the holidays? Or just checking in. And like, for me, that's everything, right? So being that kind of go-to person that when someone is thinking about anything home loan related, even if they're not necessarily looking to refinance or buy a house tomorrow, tomorrow, it doesn't matter. Like, I want them to think of Kara Whitman and like that girl, like non-judgmental, has all the time for me in the world. If I wanted to run a crazy scenario by her, she's going to tell me and I can trust her answer. So I spent a little bit more time with every single person, just talking a little bit more and taking it kind of one step deeper, right? Let's talk about your family. Let's talk about your 6 cats. Let's talk about your, being a Minnesota Vikings
There you
fan,
go.
or like whatever it might be. And again, like, I want you to remember me, right? I'm a vegetarian. I've never eaten any meat in my entire life. So like, that's crazy, but I'm going to remember her, and so just having that relationship, building that trust, they know that they can have my cell phone. So on Saturday afternoon, if, they saw a house completely out of the blue, they were just casually looking and they're like, hey, I need a pre-approval letter. I want to talk to you. So I think just having that open line of communication, building that trust, knowing that they have a reliable, experienced, knowledgeable kind of go-to person has made all of the difference. And for me, it's just more fulfilling. And then, naturally, they have their kids, right? One day want to look to buy a house, or, they want to sell their home to one of their children. We're doing a lot more, for sale by owner, gifted equity transactions, which are sometimes a little bit more tricky, but at the end of the day, there's so much value in doing that. So just being able to put together a deal and for someone to trust that this is the right thing to do, has made all of the difference.
I love it. I love it. How I love how you just focus on what really matters in the transaction. And it's so interesting, Kara, and I'm sure you see this too. As I speak more and more at conferences and I work more, across the industry, even after this many years, I'm learning new stuff every single day. And what I see, I was just recently at the Lenny Tree Summit back in November. Spoke there along with a couple other folks that I was good friends with. We talked about the power of relationship. What was interesting about the conference was there was so much talk in there about AI and about technology, because it is a technology summit by nature. And all of these AI bots that are coming in that are, companies are buying into this whole tech approach. Let's go heavy on tech. Let's use AI bots. And what I'm seeing in large is that they're not winning with that, because it's not a human being that you can relate to, somebody with emotions, somebody that can do it. I believe relationship, as companies go more and more and more tech heavy, I think relationship is more and more and more important, because it creates that differentiation that you were talking about earlier that just can't be replaced by anybody but somebody like you, who's just a highly enthusiastic, highly infectious, highly interested human being that cares about their customer and shows interest. Let me ask you this question. You made a statement there. You've got customers you've made 5 to 10 loans with over the course of the years. What do you do to organize yourself? Because look, when you're doing 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, you've done all those numbers in your career. When you're doing that, how do you maintain organization to be able to stay in contact with them and make sure that you're keeping those connections long term?
Organized chaos.
I love that answer.
We thrive in chaos around here. So, I have different touch points that I have, right? So we'll do something for like loan anniversaries and birthdays. And, I think maybe the biggest thing is, I try to make everyone feel comfortable, and I show a lot of empathy and, open line of communication. Like, I am always here. So call me, email me, text me anytime. You are never bothering me. And I think that has helped me tremendously, right? Because people will proactively reach out to me when they hear or see anything out there, right? And then we can easily just run some numbers like, hey, does this make sense? Hey, does this not make sense? So I do have a couple of marketing tools, right, that will send out automated kind of like drip campaigns or notifications that I've had a ton of success with over the years. So I would say, like, I want to stay top of mind. And I do personally reach out, and, I am kind of like the face of the business. So I want you to always think of me and talk to me, and I'm not going to pawn you off to, someone else. I think it would be so cool to have an awesome team, but I also think that it would take away a little bit more of like the one-on-one relationship with that, which I truly love, right? I think that it is more time consuming, don't get me wrong, but I feel like that's where all of the power comes in. It's just so powerful. So, I do a couple of marketing tools. I send out different, milestone kind of notifications. I will proactively call, right? If I remember something in the conversation about like, eventually down along the road, I want to do this, or I want to do this, I want to do this. It's kind of like when you go to the doctor and they kind of take a note. And then when you go meet with the doctor again, they like instantly remember this conversation that you had last time. And you're like, how did you remember this? It's because you have those notes, right? And so you stay organized because there are certain, little things that people pick up on. And I think I'm very good about like remembering certain things about certain people. And, even going through the process, my assistant is like, Kara, how did you remember that? And you just pick up on certain things, right? And you remember that. So we have, awesome marketing and awesome AI technology and tools that kind of pop up triggers or notifications or certain notes or reminders. But at the end of the day, like I want to be on the phone all day, every day, and talk to as many people as I can, stay top of mind, always feel like they can reach out to me anytime. We just do as much as we can, all that we can. So a couple of different tools.
I think you just gave everybody the secret formula to success right there in that, in that whole thing. I want to be on the phone all day, every day. That is such a critically important quote because what I see today, people don't want to do that. They want to email, they want to text, they want to DM, they want to do everything electronically, but they want to have the kind of results that a Kara Whitman has. You are not going to have that if you do not have the personal conversation, the personal connection. That's how you win deals, is by building that long-term relationship. And absolutely love how you talked about the importance of taking notes when you're dealing with a customer, having those in your CRM system, making sure that you can look back so that when you get on the phone with somebody 6 months, a year, 3 years later, you're recollecting conversations previously that they're blown away, like, how did you remember my kids' names? And the fact that even you mentioned Minnesota Vikings fans, that's something that I absolutely love and adore. That's been a central part of one of my fascinations in life. And the fact that you mentioned that, it just shows the importance of relationship and how you focus on that others first mindset of putting your customers before yourself. And I love that. So talk to me a little bit about, because one of the things that I find that is a major, major mistake for most originators today is they just don't take the time with their borrowers. I am constantly screaming, slow down, slow down, slow down. You are doing a ton of volume. You are super busy. You just talked about, controlled chaos or organized chaos that you're trying to create. And it's true. Talk to the audience about the importance of spending time with the borrower, and what are some of the things that you really focus in on in those conversations to build that deep relationship? But more importantly, how do you maintain the volume and still take the time the way that you should?
Yes, I think that there are certain points that you really have to slow down and like focus on, right? We don't need to take an hour to explain how to send a pay stub, but we need to take
Yep.
an hour to explain this is the right strategy and here is why, or this is how we, get pre-approved to buy the house that's going to work for you and your family. So I think that you just prioritize what's really important and what really matters, right? So at the very beginning of a call, I think that you have to make a solid first impression, right? You have to give your value proposition. You have to earn that trust, right? Establish that foundation. And then as you're going through, the application, right? I would always take an application over the phone if I can, for sure. I'm a little bit, old school and stubborn in that, because that's how you develop the relationship initially, right?
Yep.
And then once you're putting together the options, you take your time and go through all of the details, because the details make all of the difference in the world. And then, I just spend a little bit more time, I think, on the front end. And then as we go through the process, if there is any issues, like, I am always there. And then, I always want to be that last phone call, because I want you to remember, I want to ask for feedback, right? Constructive feedback is how we get better. And, we're never going to be do everything perfectly, but we want to be as best as we can. So I think taking your time through the important pieces of the puzzle, getting someone qualified, putting together the options is super, super important.
I love it. It's so fun. It's so fun every time I hang out with you, because I think back to when we met 14 years ago. And one of the key principles that I've taught forever, the triangle for success: value, relationship, and differentiation, the three cornerstones of success. And you just articulated that so well by talking about how you got to start with a value proposition. Don't start with letting the borrower ask you a bunch of questions where you're just answering questions and they're in control of the call. And certainly don't start by talking about your rates. That's not going to win you anything, but start with a value prop. You mentioned at the very front end of this conversation how there's so many more things that are important to a borrower. It's about your payment. It's about your term. It's about how we can save you money. It's about how we can build wealth for you. And then you talked about the thing that I just scream all the time: talk to your borrowers. Don't send them an online application. Don't just get on, shoot them an online app, let them self-serve, but you're spending the time, you're committing it to them to really understand them, build that connection, get a deep understanding, and then you're putting in options at the end, showing them different ways you can solve their issues, not just a one set solution like so many loan officers do that just order takes, but you're creating differences for them. You're being an advisor. You're making sure that you're doing it. It's just amazing how you have just mastered this trade, and you are so good at what you do. I just, every time I'm with you, I get encouraged, because I love hearing how you approach the business. All right. I want to talk about next, because you mentioned earlier about your family. And one of the things that I want to really make sure that we have time to talk about today is, it's great to be a 8-time, top 40 Scotsman's Guide producer, one of the top 40 loan officers in the country. What an amazing accomplishment. It's amazing to do hundreds of millions of dollars in production and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of loans. And you've achieved incredible success in your business. But I know that recently you had a revelation that took place, having a family that was meaningful to you, and saying, you know what, I've got to also focus on the importance of balancing life and building success in all realms. Share with me, if you would, in the audience, the revelation that you had, because it's such a great story, and talk about what you're doing to not only win at work, but win at home. Share those things with the audience, if you would.
Yeah, I think that I value time more so than I ever have, right? It's how do I spend my time where it is most effectively used, because there's never going to be enough time, but we have to prioritize, like, what is the most important thing to us. And, I went to a networking dinner, and, one individual was talking to me about all these activities that their kids were in. And I was like, I got to do this. I've been talking about it for long enough. I have to get my kids into more activities. And then we were at a birthday party, and I was like, does your daughter, are you talking to another parent, play soccer? I really want to get my daughter into soccer. I think she would just be so good at it. And then her husband happened to be a soccer coach. And they were like, registration is already closed, but we do need one more player. We need to have a sub. And so we registered my daughter for soccer, and it was so cool, because it was just a crazy coincidence. And I, for a moment was like, I don't have time for this, right? I'm taking 2 hours, one day a week that I just don't have enough time for. And I was like, no, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to figure it out. And I cannot make any more excuses. And the soccer season, she actually ended up, her team won the championship. And it was so cool because, they're 5 years old, right? Like, it's just for fun. And at the beginning, she had never done it before, and they were a little bit, they needed some work. And at the end, they won their championship, and the other coach came over and told our coach, we just couldn't get past that little girl on defense. Like, she was a brick wall. We couldn't get past her. And, on the sidelines, I was like, go, 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 go. And I'm like, okay, Kara, calm down. Like, I know that you're very competitive, but like, they're 5. It's supposed to be fun. But it was just like, I was just happy and excited. And then you're so proud of them. And I'm so happy that I did that. And it was just awesome to watch her grow and love it. And she's like, Mom, is soccer tomorrow? Is soccer tomorrow? And I'm like, no, we have to wait for the next season. But it's so cool to see like them excited. And it just kind of, lights that fire inside of you as well. So it's so cool. It's so awesome. I'm so happy that we did it. Even though for like a moment I was like, I don't have time for this, but we made time and we've gotten even into more activities. So now we're, in activities 4 days a week. And it's a lot, don't get me wrong, but it's so awesome, to be proud of your kids.
Well, I know you told me last time that you have always created a morning time with your kids that has been just absolutely very important to you. What are some of the things that you do to be able to juggle all of the things you have to do in business and still make time? What are some of your strategies to creating that balance?
Yeah, I've really tried to put my phone down. It's very hard, but
Good. It's good.
in the morning, I'll do a really quick check for like literally 3 minutes, and like that's it. And then we're breakfast, to the bus, off to school. But I spend the mornings, with my kids, and then work all day long, and I'm working, right. And then in the evening, I put my phone down and we're doing, dinner, bedtime, the whole routine, what have you. And then I'll normally check back in, a little bit later on in the evenings, or if I have like a scheduled call or what have you. But I would say like mornings are for the kids, put your phone down. And then, during the day when they're at school, I'm working. Don't bother me unless it's like really bad. And then, when they are home in the evenings, it's with the kids. And then we're kind of working a little bit again, just depending upon the capacity and what we have going on. So it's never perfect. It's a very hard balance. Some days, I'm a better mom. Some days I'm a better, loan officer, but we thrive in chaos. It's always chaos. There's a million things going on, but I feel like you just have to like go, 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 go. And for me, it's honestly better to be busy, because when I'm not busy, I'm not nearly as productive.
Yep.
And then on the weekends as well, I really try to put my phone down and like be present and, be there for them, because you get like, they're only little for a little bit, right? I mean, the other
Right.
day, we were getting the car, worked on, and my son was like, Mom, are we going to get a new car? And I was like, do you want this car? And I'm like, you're going to be driving in like literally a few years. Like, that is scary. That's
That's
really
scary.
scary. So, you have to make time for it. It's so important, and it goes by so fast. They say that the days are long and the years are short, and that is so true.
So much truth in everything you just said there. I mean, you just don't get the time back. You get one shot at it. You get to raise your kids one time. You get to spend time with your spouse and go through your marriage one time, hopefully. And the key is, and I love the 2 words that you said, my 2 favorite words: be present. That's so important. Put those phones down, move away from your work. It's going to be there. Those emails ain't going anywhere. I promise. That work will still be there waiting for you when you get to it. And you know what? Your customers, they don't know what your hours are. You can establish that. You can dictate what you want. I love how you just articulated the importance of making sure you're balancing both. It's so critical as a message for people who are high producers, because look, I look back now at where my life is at. And I think, man, 4 kids we raised, we got 4 grandkids now, and the years just pass so quickly. You got to make sure you make time for it. All right, let's close this out. I want you to give the audience, if you were to give 3 strategies, 3 things this year that you believe that people should do to hit top performance, what would those 3 things be?
I think number one is we can't lose sight of the fundamentals, the basics, right? We can all
Good.
sometimes I struggle with this, right? I've been doing it for so long. We just use these terms of like recast or escrow or this or that. And like take out the lingo, right? Like break it down, pretend like you're talking to like a first grader about a home loan. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, right? Like mortgages are just so complicated that it's very easy, to talk about all of like the verbiage and the lingo and the technicalities and what have you. But I think that if you just break it down and you don't lose sight of the fundamentals and like the basics, KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. I think
Yep.
that is super, super important. I think what I said earlier about have fun, be different, create value. Like I really do try to do that every single day, every single conversation, right? Create a memorable experience, conversation, and be a little bit different, have a little bit of fun, right? Like we don't want to
Yep.
be monotone. I want people to feel my energy and my enthusiasm and like, want to talk to me. I can't tell you so many times where they're like, wow, how many cups of coffee have you had today, Kara? And I'm like, one, because if I have more than one, I'm like literally bouncing off the walls. So I think that is really important. And then I think just focusing on like truly caring and helping others, right?
Love
If
it.
you really do truly want to make a difference in someone else's life and you care about them and you're going to be there for them and they feel supported and like comfortable, to make a large financial decision and feel like, hey, like Kara has my back. Like it doesn't matter if we have a little bit of a, light appraisal or an inspection issue or so many things could happen, but I trust her. Like, she's going to get it done and like be there for me. I think that has also like really made a difference for me that, people feel like no matter what, like she's there and I can count on her. So I think that's been really important for me as well. So I think if you just focus on the right things, like people can pick up on that.
Yep. I love it. Unbelievable advice. You have wisdom way beyond your years, my friend. No question about that. I love every time I get a chance to sit down and chat with you. It just gets me excited about life. I appreciate that so much in you. So let me close with the same question I ask everybody, every guest at the end. I always talk about the importance of having mentors and why that's important. How has that been important in your life, in getting to where you are at today?
Super important, right? I think that there's been a couple of people in my life, both personally and professionally, that saw the potential, right? And really pulled it out of me. I had no idea what a home loan was. I was fresh out of college and came into this industry. And I think that, someone kind of showing you the ropes and pushing you and seeing your potential is super, super important. And I think, personally, just having those people, like we're going to have bad days, that's life. It's going to
Yep.
happen. But knowing that you can make a phone call or, have someone just, give you a quick, nice little like pep talk, to keep going has been super important. So we need those people in our life. Like at the end of the day, right? An AI robot, all of these things are great, but you cannot replace the human touch. I really do believe that. So having, a small circle for people to pick you up when you're having a bad day, having someone to really inspire you and motivate you and push you to your potential. I mean, to me, that's made all of the difference in the world, to be super, super successful and prove that it's not just one or the other. Like you can have it all and you just have to want it. And, that's one other thing that I love about this industry is the sky is the limit, right? And if you put in the work, like the work will, pay you huge dividends, right? So it's so fulfilling and so awesome, and I'm so happy to have found this crazy world to thrive in, the mortgage world.
What a great note to close on. What great advice at the end. I appreciate you so much, Kara. So great to have you back on. I'm delighted we got a chance to do this again, and I'm sure we'll probably be doing it in a couple years again because I'm sure I'll get great feedback on this one again, and they'll be like, "Can we see Kara again?" So
You
thank
know
you for
what's
taking.
funny is we recorded the last episode like literally I think it was like 2 weeks before my daughter was made her grand entrance, and now she's getting ready to turn 3 in like 2 weeks. So
Crazy, so crazy. Well, Kara, appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for all of the great advice, for your wisdom, for taking the time. It's great to hang out with you. Hope to get to see you again soon. And thanks for just being part of Batting 1,000. We're so grateful for you.
yes, thank you so much for all that you've done for me, Dale, and thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be here again.
Well, that wraps another Batting 1,000. Kara, you're so I'm just so glad again to have you, and you are so welcome. It's been an honor to be part of your life and be someone involved in it. Guys, this has been a great session. I hope you got so much out of it, and we will see you on the next Batting 1,000. God bless. See you all soon. Thanks, everybody.